Foster Dog, written by a New Zealand author, Joy Watson. Foster Dog. Our granddad had an old dog called Molly. Granddad and Molly were best friends. They walked in the park together nearly every day, and sometimes I went with them. "Run, Molly, run," shouted Granddad. But Molly was too old to run. When Granddad dug in the garden, Molly lay on the grass and watched him. "Here, Molly, catch," called Granddad, throwing a stick into the air. But Molly just wagged her tail and looked at the stick. Granddad was worried. He knew Molly was sick. He rubbed her head. "What will I do without you, old girl?" he whispered. Molly just licked his hand. And then one night Molly died. We helped Granddad to bury her. Dad dug a deep hole and Granddad gently put Molly into it. Then they covered her with earth. Mum and I planted some flowers on the top. We were all sad because our whole family loved Molly. After that, Granddad didn't bother going to the park anymore. He sat in the sun a lot and he looked old and unhappy. One day, Mum said, "Why don't you get a new dog?" "I'm too old for a new dog. If I died, the dog would be left all alone." And then he smiled at Mum. "I'm all right. You don't need to worry about me. I miss Molly, but I'm all right." A few days later, we all went to see Granddad. "We've got an idea," Mum told him. "Our family would love a dog, but not yet. When we're in a bigger house and when the baby is older perhaps, but not yet." Granddad looked interested. "What say we get the dog," Dad suggested, "and you look after it for us?" Granddad looked very interested. He thought for a minute. "Do you know, I think that could work," he said. "I'd like to have a dog around the place again to take me for walks. This way, when you're ready, or I'm too old, the dog would have a home to go to." He grinned. "Yes, let's do it." We found just the right dog the next week. He didn't look at all like Molly, but we liked him straight away. Granddad knelt down and started to pat him and talk to him. "Going to be your dog, is he, Mr. Wilson?" asked the lady at the kennels. Granddad laughed. "Well, let's say he'll be my foster dog." Granddad and Foster became good friends. They walked in the park together nearly every day, and sometimes I went with them. "Run, Foster, run," shouted Granddad. But Foster was already running. When Granddad dug the garden, Foster got in the way and tried to dig too. Granddad threw sticks for him and Foster caught them in his mouth. Granddad laughed a lot and looked happy again. I helped him look after Foster, and I took Foster for walks if Granddad wasn't up to it. Foster and I became good friends too. "Well, he's really your dog, don't forget," said Granddad. One day I heard Mum and Dad talking. "We really need a bigger house," Mum said. "Now the baby's walking, there just doesn't seem to be enough room. Let's start looking." I was excited. A bigger house would mean we would have room for a dog, room for Foster. But later I thought, what about Granddad? He told me once that Foster kept him going. But Mum and Dad had been thinking about Granddad too. About a week later we went to see him. "We need to talk to you about something, Dad," Mum said. "The time has come for us to find a bigger house." Granddad rubbed his nose. "I see," he said. "You've come to talk about the dog? With a bigger place you'll have room for Foster." "Yes, we will," agreed Dad, "but that's not really why we've come." "It's all right," said Granddad. "That was the arrangement, so it's all right." "Actually, Dad, there's more to it than that," Mum told him. "We saw a place yesterday that we'd like you to look at with us. Would you like to come and see it?" So Granddad and Foster came with us in the car. "Come on in," said Dad when we got there. "I've got the key. The agent said we could come back for another look." "Pretty big garden," grunted Grandad as he walked through the gate. Yes, shame I'm not a keen gardener, said Dad. We went into the house. Quite nice, I suppose, said Grandad. I can see a few things that need fixing, though. I suppose you're not keen on that either. Both men laughed. We looked into all the rooms and then out around the yard. Yes, well, Grandad rubbed his nose again. Yes, I think Foster would like it here. I saw a good place over there for his kennel. The house is a bit big for you, though, isn't it? I was nearly bursting with excitement. Mum gave me a nod. Grandad, we want to ask you something. See this room here, with its own bathroom and everything? Well, when Foster comes to live with us, will you come and live here too? Please, Grandad? Grandad looked at me. Then he looked at Dad and at Mum. We would like that very much, said Mum. Grandad looked surprised. Would you? Would you really? He looked away. Then he looked down at Foster, his eyes filled with tears. Slowly a big smile spread across Grandad's face, and though I couldn't be sure, I think Foster was smiling too.